We just watched American Horror Story. Ah!
Okay, so this episode is called what?
Could it be Satan?
And it was really... Finally, we got that crossover we wanted with Coven.
Yes.
And then...
Hotel out of nowhere. We're just like, what? Hotel's here too!
And then, like, they're doing a lot of really interesting things with the Warlocks. Okay, immediate
Yeah, so
question I had.
Okay.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, you're okay.
We're talking about the Warlocks.
Yeah.
Didn't they have a male witch in Coven?
I thought they did.
And he was gay, so I thought that's why he was in there. But then they had gay warlocks, so I'm confused why he was a witch.
That's interesting, yeah.
Unless
Well,
he
and then
identifies as a woman.
also had... Oh, maybe.
But they didn't do anything to indicate that that was the case in Coven. So we gotta rewatch
Well,
Coven.
and they had to ask the witches to do the test to find out if he was a Supreme. So it almost seemed like he was going to end up a witch instead of a warlock if he passed.
No, because he would become the warlock. Would become
Oh, right,
Supreme,
he would be the alpha.
Because
That's
he'd become
true.
the alpha.
So
that was really intense.
yeah, that's interesting. I don't know.
I was not a huge fan of the actor they got to play the Antichrist at first, but I think he's really coming through. Like
Yes.
He felt very campy at first, like kind of like vaudevillian, kind of like.
Yeah, he did, like a little over the top.
Yeah, like
too
a
classic
much.
horror movie villain instead of like
too obvious.
Yeah.
But like I like what they're doing with it.
Yeah, me too. You should talk about your Trump thing.
So it kind of felt like that they were saying like the warlocks were kind of like the Trump movement because they keep talking about like the end of the era of women and how like it's time for us to be in our rightful spot and like could this be the person that will like rise above, and then they're like talking about like but we can't side with him because he's evil. But he could be the one to restore the order and put us where we rightfully belong and kind of like end this era of us being like second class. So it kind of felt like especially with like their rejection of it, kind of felt like the Hillary versus Trump political stance election where it's kind of like, no, it has to be Hillary. This doesn't make any sense. It wouldn't be, like, but we won't even give Trump a chance. And of course, like, Trump would then bring on nuclear holocaust. Is what the real world fear is. So the season beginning with nuclear holocaust, and then the alpha probably then inspiring nuclear holocaust. Kind of feels like they're trying to make. Like, we know that Brian Murphy and Brad Falchuk have very, 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 very liberal people.
Yeah,
so
and they are really not strong fans of Trump.
Doubt that they would villainize. I mean, not that we have a problem with that, but just like it would be in their wheelhouse to do something like that.
So I have a devil's advocate thing and also an agreeing thing. So
you can only agree with me.
So first of all, what I noticed is Thaisa Farmiga, when she was talking to when she was doing the whole roses thing, when she was having them change the roses, she talked about how nothing could defeat a woman, the immutable power of a woman. So that was just, I was like, so like, oh, Hillary, like, but then the thing that I thought was interesting is the way Cordelia was acting, made me think almost that they're doing like a weird, I'm not sure how to explain it, but almost like she was the figurehead for like white men, because she was not willing to see his skills because he wasn't a woman.
I mean, like, it could just be like an inverse exploration of modern feminism, maybe a little bit like the closed-mindedness of like everything,
that's interesting. Yeah, like that women now are being like, oh well, they have no value because they're a man. So maybe like cautioning against that.
Yeah, or it could just be like, I don't know. Like, it's hard to like not read into a Trump allegory, especially after the last season being cult and like how heavily it was like,
and we know
women empowerment and like the themes in that, and that the way they had. I wonder if that cult is going to tie into Apocalypse somehow, because we found out at the end of Cult that she was. Spoilers, by the way. Probably should have. Like, we'll put something.
We'll put it on the thing. Yeah.
That she was part of the cult the whole time, and so I think maybe they'll have to do something to tie it in.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that is kind of interesting to me is that the Black Witch keeps saying that she, what's it called? She keeps talking about how she was successful on TV. Well, we had that really successful reporter in Cult, so I'm wondering, because it's coming right after Cult, so I'm wondering if she is the reporter
No, because didn't
who
she
was
die
involved
in
with the
Colt?
cult.
She dies in Colt, I'm pretty sure. But we know that the woman in Apocalypse is famous from being a TV star. Like, she was like in a TV show, like a cop drama, not a news reporter. Like, we know what she's famous for.
Oh, okay.
And she made like billions of dollars.
My brain is all on Tiny Humans.
No, it's hard too because
it's hard to remember all
everybody
the things.
plays
so many
the same
characters.
character. And like, she's technically played a character who's been
she
in...
on TV
She was also in Roanoke. But again, like, that wouldn't make sense why she'd be making billions of dollars. Because we know the show she played in. Because she talks about how it was like a cop drama or something, and like how it was
maybe
like a Charlie's Angels type thing where she was like part of like a group of, because she's always just like making references to it. Like, this one episode was really sad because this happened. So we know, like,
well, maybe there will end up being like maybe we'll end up getting like some story and like they'll tell us it was connected.
But overall, so far the season feels way more focused than they have felt in a long time. Probably since Roanoke. Roanoke felt focused.
Roanoke did. But the problem was towards the end of Roanoke, it got a little funky.
It got funky.
It was like they kind of lost.
My problem with, too, that I'm worried about with the season a little bit, is like Hotel was like insane. Like, there was so much in Hotel.
Hotel was awesome.
It is so cool. Like, they had like that drill bit monster demon thing, and like the people living in the
crazy.
Sewn into like Lady Gaga and the vampires, and it's so crazy. And then she's like, "Oh, we're gonna go to Hotel," and I was like, "Oh man, like this is gonna just be nuts." And it's just like one room and then the entranceway, and it just felt like very obvious that like this is the only place we could shoot. So just throw Evan Peters in his evil Gatsby makeup, and we'll just do this one shot. And so I'm afraid.
Interesting. I didn't get that feeling. I felt like they were trying to make us feel like the feeling like of the claustrophobia that she was feeling.
I get that, but at the same time, I'm afraid that like every time they like throw back, that it's gonna be like not.
That's just gonna be like a wink, not non.
So
instead of like
I'm
a real
worried
thing.
about.
Well, they did only say they were throwing back to Coven and
Murder House. But
so
I'm just worried that Murder House.
If it's just a nod to Hotel, maybe next season we'll get more of Hotel.
Maybe. I'm also worried that the Murder House will just become a Deus Ex Machina. Like at the very end, like, you know, Connie Britton and who's the other guy's name?
Dylan McDermott.
Dylan McDermott would just like show up at the very end and be like, "You're our son, come back to the light," or something.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like something that's kind of like, you know.
Well, I'm also concerned about. So we have Taissa Farmiga in this episode. She was with the top 3, but in the current timeline, 3 years later, you have Emma Roberts standing in the 3, but like with no Taissa Farmiga. So I'm afraid that she's gonna just like die next episode, and we're not gonna get any more of her.
She could die, or she could be too dangerous to bring with them.
That's true. Maybe she's too powerful.
And maybe because. Also, is Queenie gonna just be gone? Because I just had this theory that maybe like Emma Roberts is like immune now to his powers because she like knew him, but now it's like, well, Queenie would be there too. Who are the people with her? Because it's Emma Roberts, and then who's the other person?
Cordelia and
Oh yeah, and we gotta rewatch Coven because I could have sworn she got burned alive, but like I think maybe they resurrected her. I don't know.
I think they did. I think they had to resurrect her at the end because they needed her. The other thing I was a little concerned about, the thing that felt a lot like they were talking about Hillary Clinton when they were talking about the immutable power of the woman. I'm afraid that because of what's happened in our culture lately, I'm afraid that Ryan Murphy and Falchuk are feeling like angry about what's going on politically, which I totally understand that. But my fear is that it's going to end up being a political season instead of being like focused. Like, I really, really liked Cult, but I did feel like it occasionally got a little preachy.
I agree, but I think that since, not Asylum so much, but like Coven forward, the show has been very political. Like Hotel even was really in your face about gender politics. Yeah, I felt like, not that that's a problem. It's our daughter, by the way. Coming in to say hi. So I feel like that I wouldn't be surprised if they made it very political. I think like it's an American horror story, and what's scary to
Well,
us
and
right
I
now
do
is
like-
politics. So I think it's hard to separate the two a little bit.
Well, and I never would want them to not have it because that's
Yeah.
been there from the beginning. Like, they are very political people. They have a lot of feelings. I just think that sometimes it can feel like story suffers a little bit because of that.
I could see that, and I feel like
So I
this
just hope
is
that that doesn't happen.
just they don't Oliver Stone it like in Snowden in the
Yeah,
middle.
exactly.
They stop the whole movie. Just get
Or
like
Spike
that.
Lee.
Spike Lee.
Which,
yeah.
random fact, Chirac is an amazing movie by Spike Lee.
Maybe we'll do a video about the films of Spike Lee. Not Spike Jonze. I got them confused all the time when I was younger because I was like, oh, Spike Lee made Where the Wild Things Are? That's really weird. And he also made like Being John Malkovich, but no, different guy.
Different guy.
Different guy.
Yeah.
So
is there anything else to say?
I think that something else that needs to be said. There is something to be said about, I don't know, like I feel like there's a lot more to unpack, like the warlocks going underground, the women rising up.
Yeah.
The feeling
Also,
of,
I'm
like,
wondering if the warlocks
oppression.
are underground where, like, if it's the same underground that we flash forward to 3 years later.
Oh, I think it totally is.
Because it kind of looks like it.
I think it is. It's the exact same outpost. I think that's why they picked
That's
that
what I
outpost.
thought, yeah.
And I also wonder, the dude who played Hawk in The Path is in this season. I wonder if that's it. He's just like, you get 2 episodes and then you die and then you never come back.
Yeah, I wonder too, because it was really cool to have him.
It was really cool.
And that girl, they developed like a really good relationship between the two of them.
Well, they'll come back as ghosts, I'm sure. Like, they have to. But, like...
I hope so, yeah.
They'll
Maybe for the Halloween
do their
episode.
like, yeah, I was going to say, they'll do their Halloween episode. Like, they always do. And that's when all the ghosts always come back. And I think it's just interesting how the witches do not derive their powers from Satan. I'm really
that's
fascinating
fascinating. They're like in their nature.
I felt a little X-Men-y in Cult, like, you know, like, oh, we got these powers, but like, what is the light?
When they were like turning those crystals. And
Yeah, like, so they
it
have...
was interesting. I don't know if they did CG for part of it and then didn't for part of it, because it looked funny when they were doing like the crystals, but then when it turned into a ball, it looked normal again. So I don't know if maybe they were able to do practical effects for the ball, but not for
I don't
the
know.
crystals. It was weird.
There's a lot of questions. What was I saying before you said that, CG?
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Oh, that they don't derive their power from Satan, because they're like,
Yeah,
but Satan
it's
is like
really interesting.
an actual like character, because we've had like God and the devil in like an abstract,
Yeah.
like in Asylum, we actually have like the priest and the angel of death and
Yeah.
sacrifice yourself and
All that.
all that, and the nun gets possessed, and there's like an actual like exorcism, and there's this.
Yeah, so we know that exists.
But also
too.
we know aliens exist.
Yeah.
in
Well,
this
and even
universe.
if you just take this episode, like they talk about hell and like true evil, so it's interesting that that's so separated.
Yeah, so I'm curious
Yeah.
to see, are we gonna see Satan proper? Are we gonna see a God figure?
Yeah.
Is this just gonna become preacher? I don't know.
Right. Right. God is looking for the devil, or the devil is looking for God.
Yeah,
or whatever.
exactly. Is Jesse Custer just gonna show up in the
Yeah.
finale and just...
So kind of an interesting thing too that I wanted to comment on is Patrick stopped it towards the beginning when they used the Catholic grace for the like worshiping Satan, and he was like,
For
just
the-
so you
the
know, we can
inversion.
turn this off if it's too uncomfortable for you when they're inverting like actual Catholicism. And I actually thought it was really interesting because traditionally that when you are depicting Satanism, a lot of people do use like inversions of Catholicism. So it actually didn't bother me. It was almost like, yep, of course.
So they did make it very clear.
And I also thought it was
bad
interesting
guys.
how the relationship between the mother, like, I almost got the feeling of like an over controlling religious parent, but it was like the
Yeah, so-
demonic version. And so that was like kind of funny for me.
Oh, also need to
inversion.
mention, Doug, the costumes on this episode.
Yes.
The Antichrist wearing that really... I don't remember his name. I'm terrible with names and shows. The guy wearing... The Antichrist character wearing like the Village of the Damned / Damien from the Omen type outfit. Like that kind of like...
yeah.
It's like an inversion of like almost like the traditional Catholic schoolboy garb from like ye olden days. Kind of like with
Yes,
the little...
yeah.
Thought that was really cool.
I also thought it was really interesting when they first brought him in to where the warlocks were. They had, this is like a really small detail, but they had his arm like wrapped around behind him, and he was holding his other arm like really awkward, like he had like it behind whatever. And it was really interesting because that's a very common position for like really awkward boys to stand in. but like I've never seen it on TV like that before. So it was interesting to show